Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. Today, we are talking especially about Lazio Verona. Next week, there's going to be the big season review podcast as usual. I'm here with Sunny Alistair McKenzie. Where are you? I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, I just noticed that as well. I'm just sitting in my flat, but the God seems to be shining his light on me, which is just as well, because if there wasn't this light, I'd probably have huge bags around my eyes. So,
Yeah, if you didn't see it, Alistair was celebrating AC Milan Scudetto yesterday. So,
I don't know if celebrating is the word, but I was there.
So he was enjoying that. And now he's finally back to talk about Lazio. Plenty of things to talk about because we needed a point to arrive fifth and above Roma, and we achieved that. We had missing players like Ciro and Luis Alberto, and I think we noticed it yesterday. Again, I would say that Lazio Verona was a resume of the season of Lazio. Would you agree with me, performance-wise, Alistair?
Yeah, that was pretty much exactly what I wrote in my kind of post-match piece on this, which was very convenient, really, in that regard. Crazy soft goals conceded, especially the first one. Plenty of goals scored, which has never really been an issue. I mean, even without Immobile, the top scorer, and Alberto, the kind of creative hub of the team, they still managed to score 3, and it could have been more. And then another comeback. I mean, this is something that has become a trademark of this team, the ability to go behind, but then not give up and find a way back into the game. So that was really encouraging. I mean, we've seen a bit of that before with the kind of Felipe Caicedo late goal dramatic comebacks, but under Sarri, it's been a bit more steady, I guess. Obviously, we'd prefer to not be in that position in the first place, and we'd prefer that once we've come from 2-0 behind to 3-2 up to then actually win the game. But all in all, yeah, I think, like you say, it was pretty much a summary of what we've seen all season long, yeah.
I mean, I was in Curva and the guy in front of me turned back and said, well, what a good start, right? 2-0 down after 11 minutes. That's not bad. And he was laughing at that goal. So our defense was simply ugly. Luis Felipe started after, I don't know, what was it, 1 month? And his performance was, I don't know, embarrassing. But even Marusic, I thought the first goal, he had some mistake from Marusic, who completely forgot about marking Simeone, who it appears when he sees Lazio, he always scores. So even the second goal, where is Acerbi going? He's tracking back and never try to stop Lasagna. So awful performance from our defense. I think, a good sport director would say, hey, I know where we have to work, right?
Well, I was just going to interrupt you there. Awful performance from the defence, with perhaps one exception, Vittorio. How much money would you have bet on our best defender in the final game of the season being Dimitri Kamenovic?
I thought he played well, honestly. I thought he played well.
I'm not joking. I think he was probably the best defender in the game.
And you know what? I don't know if you noticed it, but he started warming up after the first goal of Verona yesterday. What was it? Saturday, Sunday? Yes, Saturday. And I was there. I said it looked like Basic, but Basic is playing. So I had to take a picture and said, no, that's Kamenovic, right? Has to be Kamenovic. So I was a little bit surprised, but he didn't come up till the beginning of the second half. And with him in the pitch, I thought Lazio defense improved. We can talk later about the third goal, but I thought, that was encouraging. And again, it leads me to the question, why didn't he play a single minute so far before this match?
I mean, it was fairly low stakes, I guess, by that point, relatively. But yeah, I mean, it does seem even stranger now, doesn't it? Because he's clearly not a complete clown. I mean, I don't think you can make that much of a judgment based on 45 minutes in the final game of the season and a pretty crazy match. It was a very end of season vibe to that game where you felt anything could happen because neither team really seemed to care that much what happens. So I don't think you can really judge him that much. I don't think it was a day for judging defenders either. But yeah, I mean, he does look like he's got the kind of nuts and bolts of being a defender. You know, he's seems quite strong and reasonably quick and decent on the ball.
Yeah.
So, you know, physically and technically, even in that amount of time, I think we saw enough to see that he's not just there to make up the numbers. So that's something. But as Hardos is here said, Kamenovich and Patrick, I think we're safe now with a laughing emoji. And that's the point. Is I think Kamenovich, it's nice to have seen him, but we can't kid ourselves with Acerbi heading out, Luis Felipe heading out, that this is going to be enough for next season. So that's still obviously a big part of what needs to be done.
And the surprise, Alistair, is that we didn't know if he would have played left back or central defender, because he played in a 3-5-2 and he was, what was it, a left midfielder, and sometimes he played central defender. So there was question marks there. Instead, Sarri put him central defender. Don't know if that was an emergency or there is where he thinks he can play best. But overall, I thought it wasn't that bad. Yeah, you say that match didn't have a lot to say, but you know, Sarri said it last time after Juventus Lazio. We want to get the 5th place because we want to finish ahead of Roma and in a good position. So I thought Lazio had something on stake for that match. So it was good to see him playing and performing like that.
Yeah, so 5th place, one position higher than last season.
Yep.
Which is not bad at all for a season that has been full of transitions, full of difficulties, full of more transfer market issues, I guess, with leaving gaps in the squad. I mean, it should be said as well, although finishing one place higher, we were, I think, 4 points worse off than last season, as far as I remember. But the goal difference has improved as well under Sarri, remarkably, considering the defense.
Beginning of the season, yeah.
But we can probably thank Ciro and Sergei for that. So, yeah, I mean, all in all, I think 5th place, I've said it several times now, but I really do think that is a commendable achievement. It's not one that's going to get people off their seats and celebrating, but for year one, in a year that the team has had to completely change its style, change its formation, change quite a lot of the players as well. I think we have to give credit where it's due to Sarri and the players for getting that done.
Yeah, definitely. And we have to mention that this was the season where Ciro Immobile played less, so you couldn't count in a lot of matches on Ciro. That, I mean, top scorer again, but he's so important for this team. So this year we managed to arrive 5th even without Ciro, and I think that's a big sign of how Sarri changed this team. Same thing about Luis Alberto. I think we're going to talk about Luis Alberto later. But, I mean, in the past, we will say that this team is Ciro dependent. I still think it's the case, but now we have option. Now we have a different way to score without Ciro Immobile, right?
Well, not for long, because Giovanni Cabral is has been that man the last couple of games. And yeah, look, his first goal as well was worthy of a mention. It was a really good finish. And I thought he played it pretty well, actually, better than against Juventus, but he won't be around for long. But yeah, I mean, I think that generally there's a goal threat throughout the team now. You know, we're seeing that from midfield, especially from Milinkovic-Savic, but in general, a few different players chipping in with goals, and then all of that front three. Pedro's had his most productive season in 9 years, I think it's been. I mean, he's been a hell of a signing. Not only did he win the first derby against Roma, but he scored the goal that then sealed Lazio's 3rd consecutive finish above Roma. So that has been a nightmare for the other club across town to let him go to Lazio. But yeah, him, Zaccagni, Felipe Anderson, I think all of them have had really good periods. In general, they've all been good signings. Feels like there's more to come from all of them as well. So yeah, I think you're right. That's been encouraging, even though we have to say Ciro has still led the way, and it is a phenomenal achievement to win Capocannoniere for a fourth time. And he's a Lazio player. Let's not forget that. I mean, we all love Lazio here, but this isn't a team that's winning the title every year. So for a player to win 3 out of 4 with Lazio and then another one at Torino, it says a hell of a lot about the player, and deserves so much credit for it, a lot more than he's been getting given in the last couple of days.
As I said at the beginning, this was, a resume of the season. We mentioned the defense, but we have to mention that these teams need a real Vice Immobile. And we said this for the past 5 years or so. You mentioned Cabral. I thought he played 45 minutes well. I thought you could see that, and it happened even against Juventus. In the second half, he dropped off. I think it's a lack of form. The fact that he pretty much didn't play in the last 3 months or so didn't help. But we don't think he's going to stay, right? I don't think this goal will save him, even though, I don't know, it was funny because Lazio Twitter account for the second goal said, what an unbelievable assist from Cabral. And I was, seriously? What? I mean, I don't think he's even considered an assist, that one, because Felipe Anderson dribbled past like 4 players after that. But anyway, I don't think he's staying, right? I don't think he's staying. So we need Vice Immobile, because Capocannoniere again, but he's not growing any younger, and he missed a lot of matches this season. Next year, we need someone who can step up, replace him, give him a rest, and still be a threat for the other defense.
Yep, absolutely. You're right, and nobody, even Ciro, can't battle age. So, I mean, I don't think there's any sign of him slowing down, but I think that the fact that he's had to spend a few more weeks on the sidelines than he has previously shows that it's just an easy way of highlighting the fact that he's not invincible. We do need another option there, and preferably not someone who's being shunted into the central striker role because there's nobody else to play it. An actual striker would be nice.
I don't want to start talking about Calcio Mercato, but where are you going? Stay here. We haven't finished yet. Come on. I know you want to go and celebrate Milan, but
Calcio Mercato, come on.
We still have 15 minutes. Rumors are Lazio are thinking about adding Caputo or Dries Mertens. I mean, we mentioned age as an issue for Ciro Immobile. We are not getting to youngsters, right? What's your opinion there? Who would you prefer between Caputo and Mertens, and why?
It's down to the two of them. I'd say Mertens, because Sarri was the man who made Mertens the player that he is. And I think, the times I have watched Mertens this season, he's still been really good. Whereas Caputo, I think, feels like he's kind of gone over the hill a bit further than Mertens. Also, the peak of those two guys' careers, Mertens' level was a lot higher than Caputo.
A little bit.
If we're talking between those two, it's got to be Mertens. But yeah, I mean, you're right in pointing that out in the age thing. But I think that there's a very simple reason for that, which is just cost, isn't it? It's a question of who's available now and who can be brought in on free transfers in all likelihood. And Lazio aren't going to go and spend a lot of money on a guy who's being brought in literally to be a backup. So I think that probably has to be the way that Lazio get their Vice Immobile this summer. And sadly, that probably means it will be an older player. But I'd rather have an older player being a backup than nobody at all. I mean, pretty simple. So getting in a player like Mertens would be nice. I mean, it is quite funny because you see, it's like Inzaghi since he went to Inter. Like every single Lazio player has been linked with Inter. Now it feels like Lazio are going to rebuild the 2018 Napoli team from all the transfer stories about all the various players who are heading up to Lazio. So, if we can get Koulibaly, perfect. I'm happy with that. But yeah, maybe we can leave Mario Rui and the rest of them down south.
We have to talk about this. Hardo's mentioning, was it the last match of Luis Felipe and Strakosha? Not only, even the last match of Lucas Leiva, Alastair. And we were talking about this before we went live. We both didn't like this thing because they celebrate Strakosha and Leva and completely forgot about Luis Felipe. I thought this was intentional. I mean, people don't think there's still chance that Luis Felipe stay. That's not going to happen. I don't know if you follow the Instagram account of Luis Felipe. The other Brazilian Lazio player gave him a chair to remember his time at Lazio. So he's leaving, just like Stragosha and Leva. The reason why they weren't celebrated was because Lazio wanted to keep Luis Felipe, and Luis Felipe didn't accept the offer. I thought this was rude, very not top class from a team like Lazio, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of rumors and reports and talk and so on about what's been going on behind the scenes, and Felipe perhaps not behaving well. But look, this guy has been a massive part of Lazio's success in the last few years. He's come up big in some huge matches. I remember his goal against Juventus back in December 2019. He was massive in that 1920 season when Lazio were storming towards a Scudetto battle before COVID hit. He was huge that year. He's been a fantastic servant to the club over the years. Yes, he's ready to leave. He's ready to try something new. This happens, Maybe he didn't go about it in the way that the club would have liked, but to me it seemed petty. The idea of, I mean, I did suggest to you. I said when I first saw it happening, I thought surely because Luis Felipe in the stadium, we should clarify what his name was being booed by the fans because of the manner of his exit. But when the club was handing out these framed shirts to Strakosha and to Lucas, I just thought maybe the club are doing this privately with Felipe because they don't want him to get booed while he's being presented with it. But from all I've seen on social media and so on, there hasn't been any sign that has happened privately. So yeah, it's a shame. I think he deserves better. I mean, he's been how much did Lazio pay? 300,000 or something to bring him from Brazil, and he's ended up winning the Coppa Italia and becoming this inconsistent maybe, but very strong centre back. So yeah.
And we have to mention that in the second half of the match, even Strakosha was booed. I thought because of his bad mistakes he made Saturday. I mean, I don't know. This was probably the first time I saw him pass the ball 3 times to the opponent team. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he was a disaster Saturday. He made a couple of good saves in the second half, but with his feet, he was awful. And fans started booing him. But still, Lazio went on and gave him the what was it? The shirt. So
yeah.
And I think, and I don't know if you heard about Strakosha talking about after the match. The impression I had that he was hoping Lazio made an offer to him, and Lazio didn't show up. Nothing. They didn't. So I thought, yeah, we're happy you're leaving. We didn't want you, and so we are giving you this gift. And with Luis Felipe, the opposite. We tried to find a solution, but you simply wanted too much money. So we are upset with you, which I thought is really. I mean, same thing with Juventus and Bernardeschi, right? Juventus never came back with an offer, and still Bernardeschi said, "No, I'm happy leaving the club like that." And Juventus celebrated Bernardeschi leaving. I mean, why can't we do something like that? I mean, Tare relationship is awful, right? He cannot work out relationship with others. It's a problem.
Yeah, but I do think when it comes to these moments, you need to think of the career as a whole and the player's entire time, and not be, slaves to the moment. And the moment right now is that people aren't that happy because of the performances this season, because of the way that, the likes of Felipe, his contract situation, the way that's gone down. Strakosha's recent form hasn't been particularly good. But come on, I mean, think about the commitment and the efforts that these guys have put in over 4 or 5 years at the club. That's really what you're there to appreciate on the final day. So yeah, I thought it was unfair for Strakosha to to go out with without like the whole support. I mean, we should mention the crowd as well. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, what 55,000 fans. It goes to show time and again. I've said this. Romanisti always try and shoot me down on this. The fans are there. They do exist. They just need to be encouraged to actually turn up to the stadium. They were given a good reason on Saturday because it was a send off and because the ticket prices were cheap. But the club should be looking at that and thinking, wow, this is amazing. Because the atmosphere was phenomenal, wasn't it? And that's how big a help would that be to Lazio if that's what they got every week? For Verona, we're not talking about a game against Juve or the derby. This is a Verona game.
Yeah. And you provide me an assist. Roma and Inter and Milan, if I'm not wrong, already opened the season tickets renewal for next year. Lazio, what are you waiting for? I mean, do we have to wait for July? Let's do it immediately. Fans are excited. There are a lot of rumors of Lazio signing a lot of players. So, make the announcement today. Say from Wednesday we're going to open it. I think you're going to find that, you're going to start well with a lot of fans signing up to the season tickets. Why we are not able to do this? It's the same stadium of Roma. Roma opened it like 2 weeks ago, and we're still not doing nothing. I mean, this is terrible.
And pick your moments as well, because they've done it like Roma doing it around this run to the European final and Mourinho mania, and everyone is so excited. All the Romanisti are buzzing at the moment. So then they're like, right, let's go, let's do this now because people will go for it. So a time when Lazio are getting 50,000 into the ground and buying into the Sarri project seems like a good time to do it. But then again, let's not forget that not only is the problem this season been the lack of the season tickets, but the pricing of therefore buying them one by one, but they've not been opening sales for the games on the one by one basis until sometimes 3 or 4 days before the match. So it's just not easy for anyone to really plan ahead or to kind of, I don't know, to commit to actually going to the stadium, because you're very likely, if you're an organized person, to plan your weekend. Today's Monday, I might get a text from a friend today. What do you want to do this on Saturday? I'll say, yeah, sure. And then I'll find out 3 days later, okay, the Lazio tickets have gone on sale and they're actually cheap this time. And, it's a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, let's talk about Lucas Leiva.
Well, Liverpool 21 ask us, do you know where Lucas Leiva is moving to? Another club? He's going back to Brazil. But there's any official announcement yet, right? He was dreaming to go back to his former club, but they say he's a little bit too expensive. So I don't know where he's going to end up. But I think this was the last match in Europe for Lucas Leiva.
Yeah, Grêmio, isn't it? That's his former club, yeah. It does seem to be the case, which, is probably good. I think it'd be quite hard to see him in another Italian club, for example, for sure. I mean, he's been, I would say, one of the best, certainly, but there's an argument to say the best Iglitare signing. If you consider how important he's been to this team since he came in, and the price that he arrived for, that I think was about 5 million, if I remember correctly.
Well,
I mean, he doesn't get the headlines, he doesn't score the goals, but his impact in the center of that midfield has allowed all those other guys, Alberto, Milinkovic, Ciro, he has been the guy who's been the platform to allow all those players to shine in the way they have.
And one thing really important that everybody forgets, Alistair, is that he came in to take the job of one of the most important players of Lazio, that was Lucas Biglia. I mean, everybody every year with Biglia, we will say, yeah, he's one of the best of the team, he's so important, etc. We sold him, Leiva came in, and we completely forgot about Biglia, right? It looks like he was never part of the club. I mean, this is the most important thing. I mean, he was one of the key players of Simone Inzaghi's foot team, and Lucas Leiva came in, and we immediately won a trophy. First match of the year with Lazio, and Lucas Leiva won. So that's so important. That it's, if you think about now, we never mention it. That he took the place of. It's like if we sell Ciro Immobile today and we get another striker that scores, even more goal than Ciro. That would be the same result that Leiva did with Lucas Biglia. So that's unbelievable. As you were mentioning, very cheap price for Biglia, for Leiva. Great leader of the team that probably Biglia wasn't. Never complained when he was on the bench, and he has been on the bench a lot of time, especially this year. So I thought he lost a step in the last year or so, but I mean, he's 34, so it could have been expected. But moving from the Inzaghi style to the Sarri one, he was one of the guys who adapted sooner than later. I mean, if you think about Luis Alberto and so on. So we're going to miss him, but I think it's the right time to move on.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Yeah, he's definitely declined a little bit in the last year or two, like you said. But even so, he's put in some massive shifts this season. He's not been, there to make up the numbers and run down his contract this season. Incredible professional. Everybody says this about him, but it's worth remembering. Like you say, he is never there to kick up a fuss, to make headlines, to cause controversy. He is there to kind of help keep that team together, really. He seems like a key part of that dressing room, which also we should mention, Pepe Reina is the same. He's been a massive figure behind the scenes for Lazio, even if we're not impressed with his goalkeeping. So that's another thing we need to think about this summer. I mean, it's the right time for these guys to move on, but Lazio have got some big characters to replace in there as well. That is important. Obviously, you want quality in your squad, but you do also want a bit of experience and leadership and the right kind of characters to set standards there. So I think that Lucas is going to be missed in that regard, as well as being a fantastic player.
I don't think Reina is leaving. I think he's staying. Rumors are he has a clause in his contract that if Lazio reach the Europe competition, his contract will renew. So, and I think, as a backup goalkeeper, he's fine.
He's the number one.
Well, you would argue he's the only one, but it's different. I mean, I can see Sarri trying Kamenovic on goal this summer. But
it'll be like, do you remember? I think it was 2007-8, that season where we were in the Champions League and we'd signed Muslera, but he was, I think, 18 years old or something. So we ended up in this situation where we had a teenage Muslera or a 44-year-old Ballotta in the Champions League. So I think it'll be the same. We'll probably end up promoting someone from the Primavera and having the kind of Ballotta Muslera dynamic back for next season, maybe.
Who knows? But as you were mentioning, I thought Reina did a good job in the second half of the season. He was like the second in charge of Sarri. So I think that could be his future, honestly. And I'm pleased because he was a starter at the season. And when he lost his job, he didn't give up or didn't show any sign of frustration, etc. So that's good. And I mean, I would agree of sending him away. But as we need to replace already one goalkeeper, looking for two goalkeepers, two central defenders, I don't know how many midfielders, Avisha Immobile, etc. Looks a lot. So I will stick with Reina for another year.
Interesting. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, new keeper will be needed regardless. But yeah, I mean, what else? What else do we need to touch on from this match? I think that something that we saw, maybe perhaps that's crept up as the season's gone on, is the instances of the kind of Sarri ball style. It's something that everyone's always on the lookout for. Everywhere Sarri's really gone since Napoli. I think this season, it's safe to say, it's come in flashes rather than in consistent stretches. We've seen some moments of fantastic football, but it's not really been, from the first to the last minute in many games. But the third goal against Verona on Saturday was fantastic. Winning the ball high up the pitch, great passage of passing, very moving the ball really quickly to free up that space, get Anderson in behind and Pedro following up. So that that was another example that I think progress has been made in that regard as well in terms of the style this team is playing.
This leads me to a question to you, because both Sarri and Martuscello, that is the real second in charge of the coaching staff, mentioned that it's a shame that this season ends now because this team was playing better and better, and with a couple of matches more, we could reach Juventus. Do you agree with that? Because on the other side, I see Ciro Immobile is out. I don't know when he's going to be back, because rumors are he could miss even the next national team match. Luis Alberto's out. Don't know when he's going to be back, if he's ever going to be back. I see some injured players starting to wear out, other players tired, etc. We were playing better, but at the same time, we were losing a couple of key players. So do you agree that if we had other 3-4 matches, maybe we would be catching up Juventus, or we were just in time?
Well, I think it's Lazio. Yeah, they have got better as the season's gone on, and I think the numbers underline that. I can't remember the exact time frame, but I think it's the second half of the season, more or less. Lazio would be in the top 4 for points for the results in that period. So it does go to show that as time has gone on, the results have got better, performances have got better, and Lazio have been playing like a Champions League contender. I do think the standard of the league has been pretty poor this year.
Yeah.
So I don't want to read too much into that. When it comes to the timing, I think it is a decent time for the season to end, because I think coaches will always believe that good things are just around the corner, or at least I hope they do. They feel like they're making progress. You feel like you just need to tweak this, tweak that, and then the team will be amazing next time. But I wouldn't say we've kind of quite been at that level where, if we were beating Juventus 3-0 last weekend, which perhaps we should have done, but if we'd won that game 3-0, beaten Verona 4-0, and you feel like, oh my God, there's so much momentum here. But in reality, we've conceded 5 goals in the last 2 games. So I think perhaps it's time to call it to a halt for the summer and try and find some new defenders.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Unfortunately, I do agree with you. Last thing, before we wrap it up, Sarri in the press conference said there's a big risk that next year will be another year 0, because a lot of players have contracts expiring. Other players have been requested by other teams. If we sell too many players, I'm going to start from scratch again. So this could be a problem. Do you agree with Sarri? Do you think this is going to happen?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's right. There is a risk of it. And I think that's been part of his frustration, because he will look at what's happened over the last year and think there are signs of progress. And I think on the pitch there have been, but off the pitch there are still real concerns, because losing the first choice goalkeeper, one of the first choice centre backs, Lucas Leiva in the centre of the pitch. If Milinkovic or Alberto or both are sold, I mean, I don't know if it's not really starting from scratch, but he is going to have to build a very new team, and a lot of the work that he's done to make progress with these players, it won't be completely gone, but he's going to have to start again with a lot of new players. No matter what happens in the transfer market, Lazio are going to end up with a lot of new players next season, which is good. That's what's needed. But you can see why Sarri perhaps feels like it's undermining slightly what he's trying to build.
Yeah, no, makes sense. We didn't talk about Luis Alberto. Rapidly. What do you think about his not showing up at the Stadio Olimpico and going directly to Spain?
Well, how many times we've spoken about Alberto's off-field behavior and that we're not necessarily big fans of some of the decisions he's made or things he's done, but wasn't a huge surprise. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why he wouldn't want to be there for this end of season celebration when you saw Patrick was down there. Immobile, I tweeted a picture of it because I was there about an hour after kickoff when the stands were almost empty, and Immobile was out on the pitch with his kids having a kick around and waving to the fans who'd stayed behind, and just the difference in attitude between the two guys on display there. I don't understand it, and perhaps it's a sign that this is it for Alberto, or perhaps it's just a continuation of a kind of pattern of behavior that we've seen for quite a long time. And that's why it's hard to say with Alberto whether we should actually read a lot into that or not.
Yeah, I think I was reading a stat in so far as a Lazio player, only once he played the final match of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. Only once. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I think we can wrap it up here, and we'll be back next week for the season review. So check it out. We're going to post polls all week long to ask to you who has been the best player, the best signing, the worst player, and so on. So follow us on our social media because we're going to post our polls there, and we're going to be back next week for this season review. Take care.